Hello everyone, this is Cameron with ReadySetRetail. I'll be showing you how to use ReadySetRetail's grid import utility. This utility allows you to add grids into Heartland Retail quickly and easily. I'll be showing you how to set up the Excel file needed for the utility, how to add images to your grids, what each of the settings for the utility does, and how to fix and avoid some common issues while uploading the grid. Use these timestamps to skip to a specific part of the video. All of this information is also available on our support articles at support.readysetretail.com. This utility requires an Excel spreadsheet that is set up in a specific way in order to work properly. First, let's go over the required columns. Grid name. This tells the utility what grid you'll be editing, or if you don't have a grid with the inputted name yet, the utility will create it for you. Each cell in this column that has an item number next to it needs to have the name of the grid in it. If one is empty, the utility will return an error. You can edit or create multiple grids in a single spreadsheet. You just need to have the names of each under the grid name column. Current price. This is the price you want to set for the item you are editing or adding. This doesn't have to be in decimal format for it to work properly, but the utility does support it. Item number. This can be the number of an existing item, it can be a new item number, or the utility can generate one for you if you leave the cell empty. Dimension attributes. You can have up to 3 dimension attribute columns, each numbered accordingly, but at least one is required. These attributes can be color, size, style name, or anything else that can be used in a grid. Each cell under the dimension attribute needs to have the name of the attribute in it. This is not where you set the attribute itself. Under the dimension attribute 1 column, we are setting the color name. In each cell under dimension attribute 1, we enter color name. The way we set the value for each of these attributes is in another column later in the spreadsheet. Now that we have a color name attribute, we make another column with the heading of color name. This column is where we will enter our color names. In our example, navy blue, maroon, or dark gray. We'll also set the size and style name for our items in our spreadsheet. I'll color coordinate these to make it easier to see. This utility also supports custom fields that can be used in grids. These fields don't have to be in any particular order to work. The only thing you need to remember to avoid issues is that all field names need to exactly match what is in Heartland Retail. Once you have the initial Excel file set up, adding images to your grids is simple. All you need to do is add a URL to an existing image under a new column labeled with Dimension Attribute 1 Images. Like the Dimension Attribute columns, you can have up to 3 Dimension Attribute Images columns. Once you have all of your images added, when we go to process the Excel file, select the Process Images option. This will add the images to the grid. Now that we have an Excel spreadsheet, let's upload it to the utility. Go to app.readysetretail.com and sign in. In the navigation bar at the top, click on Upload, then Grids. This will pull up the Upload Grids page. First, enter an email address. This will be used to notify you if the process worked correctly or not, and provide you with a summary of the grids and items created. Now add a connection by clicking on the drop-down menu and selecting one of the options. Finally, click on the Choose File button and navigate to the Excel spreadsheet we made earlier. Under the File Upload section, there are several options to choose from. Auto-create if item number is blank, Quick Update, Overwrite existing items, and Process images. Let's go over what each of these options does. Auto-create if item number is blank. When this is checked, the utility will automatically create new item numbers for the items created if you leave the item number field blank in the Excel file. Quick Update. This will make the utility only update items and existing grid attributes and will not add items to grids or modify grid dimensions. This is useful if you only want to change item or grid fields without changing dimensions or accidentally adding or removing items from grids. If you are trying to add new fields to grids that already exist, you need to have Quick Update deselected. When Quick Update is not selected, any existing items in your grid that are not in the file you upload will be removed from the grids in the file. Overwrite existing items. By default, this option is checked. While checked, the utility will update item information for matching items. If this is unchecked, any existing items will be ignored by the utility. Process images. If checked and an image column is provided, the utility will process those images and add them to the grid. I'll select the options Auto Create if item number is blank and Process Images. Click Submit. If everything worked correctly, you'll receive an email saying the file was successfully processed, and it will include all of the items and grids created. If the file was unable to be processed, you will receive an email with an error message. Before we can explain how to avoid some of the common issues with this utility, we first need to understand what grid-controlled fields are. When you set up a grid in Heartland Retail, any fields that you set on the grid page will become grid-controlled fields. This prevents you from editing these fields on individual items within the grid. These fields will be grayed out and unable to be edited when you look in the item record. When you first upload a new grid, any field where all values are the same within a grid will be added to the grid record and become grid-controlled fields. To make a field not a grid-controlled field, you need to remove the value from the grid record. One way this can be done is by editing the Excel spreadsheet used to create the grid and re-uploading it. Let's say, for example, you want to make the style name a non-grid controlled field. You would go into the spreadsheet used to create the grid, find the dimension attribute that controls the style name, and remove it. Be sure you remove everything that's related to that dimension attribute and renumber the remaining attribute fields. Re-upload the spreadsheet, and the grid will be updated. The field should no longer be grid controlled. Whatever value you had in that field before editing the spreadsheet will remain there. If you try to update individual item fields with the quick update option that are grid controlled fields, you may run into issues where the item field cannot be edited. As mentioned before, when adding fields to the Excel file, such as dimension attributes, you need to make sure that the fields match exactly what is in Heartland Retail. If the names don't match exactly, including correct capitalization, you may get issues with the utility not finding what you are trying to edit, or it may edit the wrong field. If it doesn't work, you will receive an error message that might say something like, dimension attribute does not match. And that's all for this tutorial. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at support@ReadySetRetail.com. Also, check out our support articles at support.ReadySetRetail.com and take a look at our YouTube channel for more product tutorials.